actually, I started off, I did an environmental science degree in Wageningen in the Netherlands, environmental science with kind of specialization in health, particularly occupational health. It was at the unit of Hans Kromau, Dick Hiederik were teaching there, and also Bert Brunekreef was there. And so I did my undergraduate degree there, and then I went to London to do my PhD. And I did my PhD also in occupational hygiene, occupational health. And so I did my PhD, I had a great time. At the same time, I was trying to start a musical career. After my PhD, I went to the US for a couple of years to Davis, California. I was there with Mark Schenker doing agricultural health work. Greatly enjoyed that. And then I got a phone call back, go back to London to get a faculty position at Imperial College. The idea was actually to do more occupational health research, but then it was very difficult to get funding for that. And I wrote a couple of proposals around more environmental topics like air pollution, chlorination byproducts in drinking water, and they got funded very quickly. So the first 4 proposals I wrote, they got funded straight away. And so that was my environmental epi career. Starting off. What I see actually, there are quite a few people that are part of the ISEE nowadays. They came also from the occupational field before, and they just moved into the environmental field because there was no funding anymore for occupational, and it was quite hard to get into the workplaces. If you want to go do an occupational study, you need to get a lot of permission, you need to get into the workplaces, you need to find funding. Was not much around. When I did my undergraduate degree, I actually went to Birmingham for a few months as a kind of practical training, and that was also Tony Fletcher was there. We were working in the Occupational Health Institute, and there were other people there as well, and they moved into environmental epi. So then I was at Imperial. I was working quite a bit around chlorination byproducts in drinking water, air pollution issues. And then I needed a sabbatical and thought I need to find a very nice place to go, because to get out of London, get away from the grey weather. Came to Barcelona for a few months, and then I went back to London. But then they got some money here in Barcelona to set up an institute that was called CREAL. So they called me again to say, do you want to come here and get a faculty position? I said, okay, why not? With the experience, great experience at a sabbatical, I decided to come over, and then I joined the institute here, CREAL. And this was also, at that time, Manolis Koogovinas was there. Again, he comes from an occupational background, so I know him also from there. And then other people like Jose Maria Anto, Jordi Sunye were here. And at that time when I came to CREAL, I think there were about 30, 40 people here. And then over the years, it kept growing. We merged with another department and became IS Global. And now there are almost 500 people here. So I've seen a lot of development going, and also my own work changed a little bit in such a way that I started off here also with chlorination byproducts and air pollution, but then the chlorination byproducts was done by some of my colleagues here, so the field became a bit crowded. So I decided, to look what other things to do. There was a call for green space research, and I thought, oh wow, that's interesting, but I had no experience in green space research, so I tried to join another consortium, but they wouldn't let me in. And then decided to quickly write the grant myself, getting some people together, and that became the phenotype study, what produced a lot of green space and health papers. And that set off my career in green space research. But then I was thinking, when you look at green space and air pollution, what else is there? How do you put it in a framework? Then I started getting interested also in noise research, in temperature, the effect of temperature on health, and also the determinants, so how urban and transport planning drive these particular exposures. So my interest nowadays is more around the holistic view of looking at cities in terms of how urban and transport planning affects health, using exposure assessments, epidemiology, but also a lot of health impact assessment methodology to come up with providing evidence that urban and transport planning affects health a lot. So I get kind of a holistic picture of what's happening. And I think that's kind of successful and interesting, rather than only focusing on one exposure. Then I got involved with other research here, birth cohort research, also exposome. We do quite a lot of exposome research where we look at the totality of environmental exposures and the effects on health, particularly also for children. My first experience with ISEE was in 1998. That's when I actually started going to the conferences. I mean, ISEE was already active for about 10 years or so, but as what I said, I was working on occupational health before, so I used to go to the EPICO meetings. But then getting more involved in the environmental epi research, I thought I need to go to the conference, and I went to Boston. Boston was my first conference in 1998. And since then, I've been trying to go to most conferences. Then in 2006, I ran for councillor and got elected as European councillor. So I was a councillor from 2006 to 2009, I think. And then a couple of years ago, I ran for president and got elected as president. So I'm the current president, the current COVID president, I must say. Then as soon as I became president, COVID started, and probably it's going to finish by the time I finish my presidency at the end of this year. I mean, the good thing is we always at the ISEE have been talking about having a sustainable conference, and last year and this year for the first time, we have sustainable conferences. I mean, members from all over the world, and people don't have to fly. I must say I miss it. I miss the in-person conferences. I mean, they're great. I mean, the ISEE is, in general, is great. It's more a club of friends, I would say, and, very friendly colleagues. And then also the conferences are social events. We have our social gatherings, our dancing, etc. What makes it, very attractive, and it's for me one of the benefits of being a member. I mean, having such a large network of people you can talk to and have fun with. I mean, and so it's a bit hard during COVID that we actually can't meet in person. And we miss out a bit with the virtual conferences. But still, I mean, it's very nice that we, for the first time, can have a very sustainable conference and bring many people together. And last year, Beate and Mark, I mean, they did an excellent effort and achieved to run the conference very quickly on a virtual platform. I mean, it was amazing. And this year, I mean, Andre and colleagues have been doing another great job of bringing us to conference. Humans are social animals. We need to see other people. We need to build up trust, and this is easier to do when you meet in person. I mean, you talk to a person, you build up trust, you develop your ideas, you come to understand where other people come from. When you stop meeting, when you don't talk to others, there's the possibility to build up distrust, I think. And that, unfortunately, we see it around the world. I mean, and I think it's one of the underlying reasons why we see, so many problems in the world, because people don't talk to each other. I mean, and they think that they're different and we're more or less the same. And I think the more we talk, the more we come together, the more we understand each other and can respect each other. And I think that's, for a conference, it's very important, in particular for a topic like environmental epidemiology, where we don't have too many people working in one country, but altogether we've got quite a lot of members. So it's important to bring together. But also as environmental epidemiologists, we know quite well what is the impact that climate change has on health. That makes it very difficult kind to weigh up, shall we go to a conference, yes or no? I mean, how can we build trust? How can we get together and advance the field? So there is always a bit this conflict there that we have as an environmental epidemiologist, sustainability versus, getting in contact with people and figuring out what people are like. So I think that makes it all very interesting and worthwhile. And then, of course, we have the evening programs, going for dinner. They're always very intensive, the conferences. And when I get back home after the conference, I'm super tired. They're also very sociable events. And I must say, I've got many friends within the ISEE, made through the ISEE. I think that's the wonderful part of our job. I mean, being in environmental epi, I mean, most of the time we meet very nice people. I mean, here in the institute where I work, but also within the society. I think what we see now is that we have specific chapters for the different continents. Even, before the North Americans didn't have their own chapter. Now we've got the North American chapter, we have the Middle East chapter, the Asian chapter, African chapter. I mean, these are more local groups, that are very successful of bringing more local researchers also together. And then we also have more committees discussing specific aspects. And the committees are very important because that's where new policies are being developed or issues are being discussed. And so it's a larger group of people that is actively involved. Now, I must say we could have more people there are always more people that we could encourage to get involved. And the ISEE, I believe it's a very open society. Environmental epidemiology has a very important role in policies nowadays. If you think about, for example, air quality, most of the work nowadays is based on environmental epidemiological studies. The new air quality guidelines are coming out later this year. They're based on many studies that were carried out by our members. And then, you look at other things, chemicals, for example. There's a lot around endocrine disruptors and other chemicals that are very important, that we see the health impacts and health effects. And so this is what is done within our society. So it's the members that provide a lot of important scientific evidence that is being used in policy making, and I think that's extremely important.